What's up, sons? It's Blind Red with Sound of Tech once again, and today I wanted to talk about the importance of transaction fees on Layer 1 proof of work cryptocurrencies as it pertains to cryptocurrency mining and the security of the network. This was spurred on by a great AMA between Uphold and Hashtag, and summarized great by Christy here on Twitter. Links of the summary will be down in the description below. Now, the talk here is essentially surrounding MEV, and for those that are not in the know, MEV stands for miner extracted value. The best way to explain this is imagine that essentially there's a ledger or a list of transactions that will be completed. And depending on where you are in that list, it can affect, of course, how profitable that particular trade will be. So it can be advantageous to be at a higher point or get done or traded before another trade goes through because you can make additional money off of that. And this has been a point of contention surrounding cryptocurrency for a very long time, but really only for one cryptocurrency in particular, which was Ethereum. Because before Ethereum, the transaction fees were basically non-existent. And that is still true for a majority of cryptocurrencies. That's because the cryptocurrencies in circulation right now just do not have the high throughput of transactions that Ethereum had. And that can be due to, of course, anything from DeFi and trading tokens on the blockchain to your NFTs and so on. And there was a lot of value created with these third-party applications that were built on top of Ethereum in particular. Now, the rest of these cryptocurrencies don't have it. The only other cryptocurrency where it became a thing was here during the halving. We saw Bitcoin get the transaction fees above the base block reward for a brief time, but that settled back down and went away. The reason why this is important is because there's been a new trend of quick emissions or fast emission cycles on these new layer 1 proof of work blockchains. Kaspa being kind of at the forefront here and deploying a very quick emission schedule. Right now, we've already gone down to essentially 100 Kaspa per block, and it is decreasing significantly and very quickly, meaning that we will be in the single digits by 2027 with a huge cut to the base block reward by 2025. And this is going to go one of two ways, right? There is either the option that the miners are making enough and hold enough of the volume to influence the price and thereby driving the price of Kaspa up because of the lower amount of Kaspa that's being newly minted, or of course, Kaspa loses security and miners have to shut off because a majority of the volume has already been mined and put into circulation, and people drive the price down without consideration of the miners. The only way to combat this and not have either one of those two things happen, where essentially you're having the economy based off of the base block reward, is to drive the fees of the network up. And to do that, you have to have a killer app. Something like OpenSea on Ethereum, for example, would be a killer app that could drive transaction fees up. But of course, now we're talking about MEV, which is miner extracted value, which was the large driver of fees being increased on Ethereum. Now, there have been some proposals surrounding this to actually reduce it and basically pay a portion of it back to the user for lack of, wanting to get too technical here. I just want to kind of basically explain it as that. And the reason why this could be dangerous is that you further drive the incentive to maintain security on the network further down. And so I think in the case of Kaspa, for example, two things need to happen before 2027 to really make it sustainable from the security perspective and from the basically miner profitability perspective, because that's what security comes down to at the end of the day in the long run. And it needs, one, a killer app, which is going to be something that needs to get done. And then two, it needs to actually drive and have a competitive MEV system. And I think that could be done here. I'm not exactly sure, how much this would impact miners specifically compared to users. And it's a balancing mark that you play. The reason why Ethereum was so profitable, if we go back to that, is because it had that killer app and it had MEV enabled, and that allowed miners to extract value out of the blockchain and be profitable, which means more people were willing to basically provide security to that network by pointing their rigs at it to mine. The Kaspa situation is different for a multitude of reasons. One being there's no consumer grade hardware available for people to mine with that is competitive, right? Everything's moved to ASICs, which means it's controlled by a few entities, some entities holding upwards of 15% of the total hash rate on the network, and basically the lack of a killer app or the lack of MEV in general, transaction fees in general. You can see this too very easily if you take a look at something like 2Miners and the block rewards. You can see here that there are very few fees going through in the, thousandths to 10,000ths of a Kaspa in transaction fees. Now, this sounds great on paper. You have a fast blockchain that has low transaction fees, but it becomes a problem when we get to the point of compounding that with fast emission cycles, where you essentially have no incentive for the miners to continue mining. And if you're in the market for a Kaspa miner, it's very important to pay attention to this. As you can see, current reward is 110 Kaspa. If we look at this, most of the time, we are seeing just a flat 110 Kaspa per block, which means for the most part, a majority of blocks are not including transactions that have fees or, in transactions that are being done at all, much less any transactions that have fees. And when there are transactions that have fees, it's such a minuscule amount that it doesn't make up for the amount of Kaspa that will go down, like the amount of Kaspa that will be removed by the emissions cycle. So it's something to pay attention to, and this is a trend not just in Kaspa, but fast emission cycles have been something that have been coming out for layer 1 proof of work blockchains a lot lately. And this really does basically create issues down the line. Initially, it looks good because you get a high volume, you get a lot of circulation very early on, and that all works. But once you get further on down the line, it just isn't rewarding enough for miners to continue to run their rigs, which means you run a risk of security going away. This is something that I've been paying attention to on Kaspa for quite some time. We've already seen a huge decrease, of course, in the profitability of the Kaspa ASICs, and some people have had a hard time basically getting their return on investment if they only bought a couple units. And this is just the case for pretty much any ASIC altcoin. You take a look at like some really bad examples where it turned out very poorly, like Kadena. Same thing happened, but they didn't have that fast emission cycle either. So there's still some incentive over there. My question will be like, obviously, does this mean that Kaspa is going to have to skyrocket and moon to basically maintain their security costs? Or, is the usability, is there going to be a killer app that hits the Kaspa network along with, a good MEV practice going on and implemented on the network? It's a really interesting topic to follow, so I wanted to talk about it. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Like I said, I think this can go one of 3 different ways here at this point, and I'm curious to see where that ends up heading. Now, coming up in June, if you want to talk about this in person, come meet me over at Batchcraft Beer and Kolaches in Austin, Texas on June 1st. And we actually have 2 other crypto YouTubers showing up. Digital Spaceport and your friend Andy are joining. And if you're looking at getting into the crypto mining space, Scott Offord will be there. Obviously a big ASICs guy. So if you have questions about ASICs and deploying large mining farms, including maybe a Kaspa mining farm, definitely come stop by. He also has his Build a Mine workshop, which you can check down in the description below. That is coming up here in July as well. So great, guys. It'll be a fun time. I hope to see you guys out there. There are also raffles going on right now. Only 26 tickets left at this time, but there are also raffles going on for a Zotac Gaming GeForce RTX 4080 Super and the BC 250 by 12 rig from ASRock. That's the 4U12G. I'm super excited for this raffle, so make sure you get entered in for these. There will also be a free raffle for a Nano 3 thanks to Coastal Crypto. You can check out the affiliate link for them down in the description below, along with a ton of swag from places like Hive OS, Terra Hosting, and a few others. So it should be a good time. We have over 80 people signed up already. You'll meet people that you can work with in the industry, and it's going to be a great time. I can't wait. I hope to see you guys out there. I'd like to discuss what your thoughts are. I don't know where Kaspa goes. To wrap things up here, just to give you guys an idea, Kaspa has been basically an anomaly from the very get-go, presenting new technology, approaching everything completely different, including the emission schedule. We've never seen it play out, so it is going to have to sit back and take a look and wait and see what happens kind of thing. But I really hope that we see, at the very least, a killer app, like I said, good MEV practices that balance, transaction fees for cost as well as maintaining, the profitability for miners. And if that balance can be found, it's going to be killer. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. And I will see you next Tuesday.